what you're known for is helping people get quiet and finding that inner voice.
We all have these gifts. When we look back at our childhood, what were we doing and being that we can remember that came easy to us and made a difference? Your frequency attracts like you wouldn't believe. This is where my journey starts. I need to start letting go. This is about waking up to the truth of your life. And I would say that the thing we are most addicted to, personality-wise, is the addiction of looking away at the truth of our life.
Elaine Glass, my dear friend, welcome to the Live Your Truth Now podcast. How are you?
Amazing, Mike. Thanks so much for having me. I'm super excited.
I'm excited you're here too. And, every time I've been around you, I always find myself very calm. I don't know if that's like a natural talent you have, but whatever it is, it's unbelievable. I just feel even like not even being in the same room with you at the time we're recording this, I already feel a level of just calmness and serenity. And speaking of serenity, that's what you're known for, is helping people get quiet and finding that inner voice. And I'm excited to talk to you today specifically about that, listening to your inner guidance. How can we get quiet? And so I'm excited for this conversation. And I want to dive in with a little bit of a backstory on how you got to this line of work. And through our conversations, you've told me that in another life you were a dental hygienist. And you also shared with me, which is I still think is an unbelievable number, 40,000 people you saw or treated in that period of your life. First of all, that's an incredible number of people to see. Second of all, how did you keep track of those people, knowing it was 40,000? And I would just love for you to just jump right in and share that story, that chapter of your life.
It was 40,000 patients who taught me about life.
Mm.
That was my life class. I've always known that I had a gift to listen to people on a very deep level. I remember being on the playground at 7 years old, and a friend of mine came running to me, crying. And I sat with her. I don't remember what I said, but she left happy. And I was like, whoa, what did I just do? What did I just say? Who was I being? And so this is a gift of mine. We all have these gifts. When we look back at our childhood, what were we doing and being that we can remember that came easy to us and made a difference? So that's just who I am in my natural state. That's how I came in. That's how I'm circuited. So sitting with all those patients, I did the same thing. I was present. I was loving. I wanted to be inspirational. I wanted to be comforting. You have to immediately have a rapport with somebody when they're coming to the dentist. It's very fearful. It's a very vulnerable place to be. And I was always captivated by people's vulnerability, because at that time in my younger years, I wasn't vulnerable. And so I really feel like those years helped me feel safe enough to be vulnerable, because I feel vulnerability is such a strength. It's how we deeply connect with one another. And yeah, it was my life class.
Was there a moment where going from vulnerability not being a strength for you to vulnerability being a strength for you that you can pinpoint and share more with us about how that moment defined you?
Before, it felt like I was living in fear, like I was hiding. When I began to become vulnerable, and particularly share my story and coach people, it felt loving. It felt like freedom. So I went from fear to love. And when you change your state of being to love, wow, your frequency attracts love like you wouldn't believe. And so it was really those moments that I started coaching people. And they would say, how can I tap into my most authentic self? How can I become more vulnerable? And I would share my story. And when we are vulnerable with others, we give them permission to also be vulnerable. But you have to be in a safe place, as you know, to do that.
Yeah.
You create such a beautiful, safe place for vulnerability. And it is a gift.
What comes to mind for me as we are diving into this part of our conversation today is that you said from fear to love. And immediately what popped up for me was most people that I've encountered and have had conversations with, and even in my own personal experiences, would argue that it's not a fear moving from fear to love, but it's a fear to love or being loved. It's this fear of acceptance. And as you beautifully explained about vulnerability being this superpower, this thing that actually opens up doors for you, I would also bring up to you and love to get your perspective and insights on people feeling afraid to love or to be loved, to be seen. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think we always have to look within ourselves first in terms of our own self-acceptance, our own self-love. That's really where it starts.
Mm.
If we want others to accept us, if we want others to love us, then we have to love ourselves. And I really went on a journey to self-acceptance and self-love in order to then have that coming from the outside in. It all starts with ourselves.
It's such a hard journey for us too, especially when the answers are within. We're hoping that it's in the external, that it's tangible and we can see it, right? Oh, I don't have enough money. I'll just go make more. I'll just get it from somewhere else. That'll fix the problem. Or if I just get into a relationship with somebody, then I'll feel loved. And a lot of your work in coaching and in our conversations that we've had and in the encounters that we've been able to experience with each other, you've always expressed the importance of reflection within. It's not out in the world you're going to find your guidance, it's within. And you use this concept of the labyrinth, which I love. And someday I'm going to participate in that with you because I know how powerful it is. But the two parts to this is that the reflection within, people are afraid to look within and they're scared of that because there's so much there and we're so complex as humans. Love your insight on that. And I would love for you to talk to us about this analogy you have told me multiple times about the labyrinth and why it's so powerful to use that as a tool in your work.
We do hear the answers are within.
Yeah.
And I have to honestly tell you, that really bugged me because I was like, well, first of all, where is within? Like, how do you get there?
Yeah.
Where is this within? Like, tell me. It seemed so elusive. And so I really was bound and determined to find this within. If that's where all my answers were, all my truest answers, then I was going to find it. And it ends up, it's important that if we're wanting to find answers that come from really our soul's voice, that wisdom deep down inside of us, we have to be asking the right questions.
Yeah. Love that.
So I went to a labyrinth. I got really quiet. It was super quiet at this retreat. I would love to take you there.
Mm-hmm.
And the labyrinth represents this metaphor of going from the outside world to the inside, to that center. And that's the metaphor of going inward to find these answers that I was so desperate for. So I started walking this labyrinth, and immediately I hear out of nowhere, Mike. Now, at that point, I had been divorced for 5 years. I was a single mom raising two small boys, just trying to survive. But I knew that my life had gotten so loud that I couldn't even hear myself. And I was desperate. I was longing to hear myself. What did I think? How did I feel? How did I see the world? What was my next best step? And the first time I got to that labyrinth, I started walking and walking. I get to the center and I hear as clear as day, surrender.
Hmm.
I'm like, surrender? Are you kidding me? Like my whole life will fall apart if I surrender. Like, what are you talking about?
I've
And
said the
who
same
was
thing too. I've said the exact same thing too. I'm like, no way. I am not giving up anything. I'm going to hold on so tight.
so tight?
Yeah.
The problem was I was holding on so tight.
Hmm.
Not only was I holding on so tight, I was holding on to like a lot. I was holding on to wanting everything to be certain in my life. I was holding on to my children's emotions. I was holding on to, will I ever find love again? I was holding on to making sure I had control of every outcome. And it was suffocating. I couldn't even breathe. And when you're in suffering mode to the point where you can't even breathe, and all you want to do is be the healthiest mind, body, and soul you can be for your children, which was my goal, something had to give. And so I heard surrender. I heard that message from the deepest part of me. And I was like, okay, this is where my journey starts. I need to start letting go.
For people listening right now that are going, Elaine, this is amazing. I love everything you said, but I have no idea what the hell a labyrinth is. Would you mind sharing with us what exactly is a labyrinth?
A labyrinth is a 4,000-year-old ancient contemplative meditative tool. And I mean, they must have known something magical back then when it was super quiet and they could like totally channel in like the
Mm-hmm.
most beneficial things ever. Because today there are labyrinths worldwide, mostly in the US. You can find any one nearby you at the labyrinthlocator.com. And so it's this meditative tool, and it's not to confuse you like a maze. It's one way in and one way out. And it's like this portal, Mike, that you enter. And I say portal, it sounds woo woo, but I'm not a woo woo person. You know, I'm like a science based person. But the minute I entered this labyrinth and the way my body swayed back and forth through the different paths, something happened to me energetically, some shift, some connection from way beyond this world is where I connected. And I couldn't get enough of it. I mean, back in those days, like I said, I was desperate to find the answers. When you're in so much pain and so much confusion, you don't know which paths to take. You don't know what best decision is for yourself and your family. I was really desperate. And so after I heard that word surrender, I couldn't go back to that labyrinth for a month because literally it freaked me out.
Yeah, I could imagine.
I went back 4 weeks later and I started singing this Michael Jackson song. You are not
Oh
alone.
my God.
I
That's,
am
oh
here with
yeah.
you. I'm like, oh man, I'm not alone. You are not alone. I'm here with you. I started to hum that. I went back to my car. I turned my radio on and that song was playing.
Wow.
The synchronicities when you tap in to this energy that's far beyond and much wiser than anything that we can actually see. When you actually trust the unseen, wow, wow.
Most people, including myself, are familiar with meditation in sitting down on a pillow closing your eyes and not moving. And for some of us who are more active people, including myself, we go on YouTube, we look for a money manifestation or an abundance meditation, and we go, I just need 15 minutes and that $1 million is going to come out of the sky and just be right on my back doorstep. And I know this because I've done it. And from time to time, I still do it because it's just fun and it's exciting. The point though that I learned recently, and recently I mean within the last 6 months, is that it wasn't about the achievement of a goal within the actual meditation. It was to look within and to create an energy and a vibration of feeling worthy of receiving any sort of amount of money that I wanted to. When I spoke to you about this at first, and you talked to me, this was a moving meditation. It's an active meditation, and you're in this labyrinth, and it is one way in and it's one way out. The power of that from a visualization standpoint was really incredible for me because I'm going, wait a minute. I thought the whole point of meditation was to stop and look within, which meant literally sit down, stop, and look within. And when you told me, well, you can do that also walking. Can you tell me about the experience based on, your personal work and the work you do with your clients on moving meditations? Is there a difference between when you're actively moving and meditating through this labyrinth than it is when you're sitting down on a pillow in that traditional way?
I've sat on a pillow and meditated for 30 years. I was trained in transcendental meditation in my 20s, and it has done wonders for me. But something was missing, and I didn't know what. My energy had to shift. When things don't move, things don't change.
Hmm.
And yes, this is an active, contemplative learning exercise. I needed to actually get up and start moving my body, start moving things in my environment, whether that was cleaning and clearing out my cupboards or, to like who was sleeping in my bed. Moving my mindset, starting to think about how I was thinking about things. Was I positive? Was I negative? Was I dreaming? Was I creative? Was I curious? So that's how I started. Those are all very active things. And they are all leading you to the center of who you are. So even though the book is called Get Quiet, these are contemplative learning exercises, but they're also very active, as you can see. Now, the fourth path, so the first one is moving your body, nurturing your body. Second is cleaning and clearing out your environment. All the while, we're shifting energy. Like I said, everything is energy. If things don't move, things don't change, and they stay stuck. The third thing is your mindset, which I like to even say, you can even get to a state of no mind. That's really the sweet spot. The fourth in this moving meditation is all about getting rest. If I had to say the thing that made me tap into that soul's voice and really get to the root of who I truly am, who Elaine really is, and her most authentic self, was through rest, through the permission to rest. And when you have a full-time job and you're a single mom, wow.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, I'll take a bubble bath for 15 minutes, but while I'm in that bubble bath, I'm going to think about all the things that I need to keep doing. No, this was such a rest. Like, this is a deep rest. And what happens with deep rest is, for people who overgive and over nurture, there's no energy coming back in terms of receiving. We've got to keep the loop of giving and receiving constantly open and flowing, or else it gets stuck. So in that rest, I was receiving in ways that were scary, because you have to trust to receive from the outside. When you're receiving love, when you're receiving help from somebody, when you're receiving, I remember being on a massage table and I was so open and ready to receive, being so vulnerable in terms of my heart just being open. huge, huge, huge open heart space. I remember getting off that massage table and she said to me, Elaine, thank you. Thank you for receiving. So people love to give, and then there has to be a recipient of receiving. So those are the first 4 points of this getting quiet method, because we have to shift the energy in these ways.
And the surrender piece factors into all of that too, when you're talking about receiving love. And I find that so many people are naturally, you're right in that, like so many people are just naturally gravitating towards, let me just give, let me provide value, let me show you how worthy I am. But the challenge, I think, for a lot of us is not so much how can you give, it's how much can you allow yourself to receive. And one of the things you said in that 4-step process that I really wanted to kind of double click on and expand out more is environment. For me, being in the Marines, I'm always like, you can put me on a concrete floor and like I would be okay. That was like my default programming. I didn't understand the value of environment. Probably within the last year, it was like a big thing for me. And you started talking about energy in environment. Talk to me about when it comes to the path to that inner voice, that inner guidance, to surrender, to giving and receiving, the importance of our environments. Is it throwing out clothes? Is it like, I'm going to just change everything now and I just need to get rid of all my furniture and just buy new shit? What does it mean to change our environment?
Well, first, I want to thank you for your service.
Thank you.
My kids used to joke because every so often, maybe every 4 to 6 weeks, I'd want to move a piece of furniture in the house. And they'd be like, oh God, there goes mom changing the furniture again. And I didn't know why I was doing it, but it felt good. It's like if I moved my couch just over a little bit, I could see like a tree a little bit better from my outside, window. If I cleaned out some old clothes that were just kind of cluttering my closet, I'd walk back into my closet and feel like I could breathe a little bit more easily. Those are your physical things. They really make a difference in your environment. And then there's the people cleaning out. That's a little bit harder. When you're
You,
cleaning out the people in your life,
yeah, go ahead.
that's a huge part of your environment. And I don't mean making sure that well, they don't have to leave. You don't have to break up with them, divorce them, no. But let's at least be mindful about the energy of the people in the home. When you walk into a room and your wife is there, your husband is there, your children are there, how are you showing up? How are you being mindful of your own energy in the space that you all share? When I first go anywhere, whether it's I'm on vacation or business meetings and I check into a hotel, sometimes literally, Mike, because I'm a highly sensitive person anyway, if there is something off in my environment and I'm sensing like stuck energy or something that isn't quite right, I'll either move that to another room, or what I do, I know, again, this is very woo-woo to some people, but it's very real to me, is I will clean and clear the energy of that room. And I have a method to do that. And I learned that, again, after sitting with over 40,000 patients in that little room. We are energy, we are vibrating, and this is the reality. And I would actually feel like there was energy left over from a patient that hadn't left, or just there was some unease. So I learned how to clear and clean the energy so it felt really beautiful and safe for the next person. So I've been doing this for a very long time. Environment is huge.
I love what you said about people. It's not just your physical environment. I love what you said about people are also part of the environment. And you don't have to get rid of them. You don't have to break it off with them, or you don't have to go on this whirlwind and just clear everybody out and say, Mike 2.0 or Elaine 2.0, like coming through, stay, you're going to move or I'll make sure you move, kind of thing. You talked about people not necessarily clearing them out. Do you mean if there's somebody there where I'm looking to tap in and I'm seeing an energetic misalignment with people in my life, and I know they don't belong in my life, or I know that maybe I've outgrown them, or maybe just we're not on the same path, we're just not there anymore. And I think a lot of people can resonate with friends from high school. You have this allegiance to them. Oh, well, I've known this person since freshman year of high school, but you may be on one path and somebody else might be on another path. But you don't necessarily feel like like you have to cut them out. So how do you handle those relationships without creating a break or a disconnect? But you energetically feel like those relationships are no longer serving you.
I'm going to be a bit blunt.
Yeah, please.
If any percentage of your being, even 1%, feels that you are no longer in alignment, which to me means no longer in right relationship with another human being, that is your soul telling you you are expanding. You're not better than, you're just on a different frequency. You're on a different frequency. And as humans and all of that, we are energy, we love to be in the same frequency of other people. It just doesn't feel right when we're not in a different frequency. It's as simple as that. They're not bad. They haven't done anything wrong. It's a shift in energy that we have to listen to. Because if we try to fix or hold on, it's just going to cause the suffering. Can we let go in order to keep rising and expanding in our own frequency? And sometimes we have to let go of people in that way. And we have to surrender to that happening.
That's so good. That's really good, Elaine. And something as we approach the back half of the interview, there's a couple more questions I want to ask you. And I love what you said about surrendering to the expansion of our soul. It's not a better than, it's just you've outgrown. And sometimes, most of the time, you will outgrow people. You will outgrow things that you used to do. That's caveat with expansion, right? Is that as you grow, the things that you once had may not be relevant to you. And as we get to this back half of the interview and the couple questions I have left for you, I want to talk about this book. It's not secretive. It's not like you're hiding it from people. In fact, you've been promoting it so beautifully online and been getting amazing endorsements. And I know it's been so well received. I know the people at Hay House are just really excited about this book too. And this has just been a long time coming for you. And I think it's just so great. And people, if they see this book at these bookstores and they see you on TV and they're ready to buy this thing, let's talk about this book you've created. What do you hope that somebody gets from buying this book and reading it?
Thank you for all of that.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you that I have recently gotten 2 texts from people that I admire, that I kind of looked at my phone. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that person actually knows my phone number. And that you would know and your listeners would know, but I'm going to keep them private.
Of
But
course.
the one told me that after reading my book, it was a woman who's divorced with 4 children,
Hmm.
an entrepreneur, very busy, of course, wanting to open her heart and feel love again. She said, Elaine, this book opened my heart in ways that I couldn't even imagine. So to answer your question, when we can open our hearts back up again, we open ourselves to tapping into human kindness. And I would say that that really is the most important purpose of mine. Another person, same thing, a very well-respected professor at a Ivy League university, he texted me and said, oh my gosh, I have been pondering what to call my spring course for months and it hasn't come to me. And I read your book and I was able to create the title of my course.
That's
So
amazing.
I want people to be able to create again, to tap into that creativity. So that's just a little bit of what this book, from what I've been hearing, does for people.
That's so great. I can tell this labor of love that you've created and just how much excitement is just coming out of you, just watching people that you've admired or you admire reading this book and telling you how it's changed them. That's the hope for any author, right? Or any coach is transformation piece. Is you changed my life. People in the Live Your Truth Now audience, I can tell you because I got a pretty good pulse. So all my people out there, there's a lot of high performers in here. They go, this sounds great, but I don't have time to just sit around and get quiet. Elaine, beautiful. Yeah. Love, surrender. I get all of that. I took cliff notes. I listened to your book on Audible. I don't even have 5 minutes to eat lunch. But I think what I am hearing you say is that the intentionality of getting quiet will do so much for you. For my high performing people out there, the go-getters and the A plus students, the achievers, the busy entrepreneurs who may think that time is limited and it's accounted for. How do you advise that these people could find the time intentionally to get quiet or tap into that inner guidance? Maybe it's not walking a labyrinth, but do you have any suggestions or pieces of advice for these people?
I've sat in those shoes
Hmm.
for way too long. I saw my marriage crumble. I saw my health crumble. I saw other relationships crumble. So if we don't make time for what I'm talking about, I mean, getting quiet saved my life. It helped me be the best mom I could be to my kids. If that doesn't give you inspiration to do this for yourself, because I can guarantee you that the busy person is not happy. And I would also say they're probably not healthy. I would probably say their relationships are suffering. Their health is suffering. For me, my health is my wealth. My closest relationships that I cherish, that I put all my energy into, is the most meaningful thing. So if you don't have time for those things, yeah, I just don't want someone to wait till, you know, their wife wants a divorce. I don't want someone to wait until their child is thinking about committing suicide. I don't want you to wait until life has just fallen apart to do this inner work. This is about waking up to the truth of your life. And I would say that the thing we are most addicted to, personality-wise, is the addiction of looking away at the truth of our lives.
I really like that. That's a fantastic way to end the episode. But before we end, I want to just share two things with you today, Elaine. As always, you're an amazing, wonderful human being. And this book is going to influence and change many lives outside of the two that you shared with us today. And thank you so much for telling me and telling our audience and sharing with our audience your own personal experience, and also sharing with them the power of getting quiet. And by the way, thank you for sharing that website with us about the labyrinth, because I was actually going to ask you that offline. Where could people find a labyrinth near them? So thank you. It's been an honor to have you on the show, and I cannot wait for this book to come out and just inspire all the people I know it's going to. And the second thing is, as you know, we ask every single guest on the show what their personal definition is of living your truth. So, Elaine Glass, what is your personal definition of living your truth?
Being in right relationship with myself, not betraying myself, not lying to myself, and letting the unseen forces guide my path, and to trust.
Dang. I am just absorbing all that right now, going, wow, that hit me like a ton of bricks. That is so good. Elaine, thank you again. That's unbelievable and super powerful. And I love that definition for you. And thanks to all of you for tuning into this week's episode of Live Your Truth Now. If you like what you heard, go ahead and give us a follow on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You can also watch other episodes of the Live Your Truth Now podcast on the Live Your Truth Media channel. This is Mike Ligori. I'll see you next week. Take care.